Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to be doing a review on ETFs. There's an exchange-traded fund that gives a dividend. There's a new one on the market, and then we're going to talk about how to navigate exchange-traded funds. On the line with us, it's Dan Kimmis, our CBD correspondent with Good CBD Products.
I know nothing, Chronic. I'm looking forward to learning. So much so.
There's a lot to learn. There's quite a few exchange-traded funds. For those that don't know, it's kind of a portfolio. So if you don't want to invest in a risky equity or stock, then you can grab a whole portfolio so that if one goes down, hopefully not all of them will, and that'll kind of save you from losing all of your money. Ultimately, ask your financial advisor. But the ETFMG Alternative Harvest Exchange Traded Fund, ticker symbol MJ, just announced last week that it's declaring a $10.5 million dividend, or the equivalent of 28 cents per share during the third quarter. And so that's based on quarterly dividends to project an annualized yield of 4.66%. If you look at your savings rate, it's not negative yet. It's about to go negative. Europe has negative rates. Japan has had negative rates forever. And so you're about to pay to save your money. Growing up, we all were under the acknowledgement that you're going to receive money for savings. Right? There's a savings rate. Now there's negative rates, and you're going to have to pay to save your money. So looking at a money market account that gives you 0.5% for savings, this is obviously a much better deal. You'd have to keep your money in account for 10 years just to get what 1 year worth of dividends is giving you. And that's not even the price appreciation, as it went up about 45% in the first quarter alone. And so with this dividend, it's just kind of adding more froth to that. I think as reasset allocation is occurring right now, people are putting money in there. It's the largest ETF. They gained around $21 million in the dividend payments this calendar year. And so they're expecting to pay that out in September. So it's considered the largest cannabis ETF in the world, and is also the first US listed ETF. And so they've gained a lot of traction over time.
A lot of press, a lot of PR. Again, it's funny because, from a opportunity standpoint, right? Somebody guiding your bread like that, very intriguing. And yet, of course, it doesn't happen all the time. I mean, still. So, can we endorse somebody? Do you endorse them?
I can't personally endorse the stock market. It's my personal opinion that most stocks that go public are zombie companies. And that's not even my opinion. I mean, you could just look at the majority of companies that have filed an IPO this year in 2019, and the majority of them are not making money. Most companies that file an IPO are going to lose share control. They lose control of their company because shareholders can vote them out. And then all of a sudden, if you are filing an IPO, you're under the restrictions and guidelines of a highly restrictive market. And so most people are not going to be able to understand how investing works. It's peace of mind to know that there's a portfolio in there, but I can't justify companies that file public companies. Having said that, you obviously need to invest your money somewhere, and so maybe the most safe place is a portfolio. This is going to be risky, though. Not to say that GE, that's practically bankrupt. You can look into that yourself, but there's companies out there, Harbingers and Bellwethers and leading companies that are zombies. They're not generating revenue. And I don't think that some of these cannabis companies are any different. When I was up in Vancouver, they were talking about a company that had $800 million market cap and only generating 20,000 in revenue. So although there are some good companies, I can't really tell anybody and advocate for a single one of them.
Wow.
So there's one more ETF on the block. These kind of started coming out last year up in Canada, and then the US started adding more to that. So it's a hot investment zone. There's been a lot of, like you mentioned, PR and marketing. Canopy Growth lost their CEO because he couldn't generate that PR and marketing into actual revenue. A lot of people are not making the money. There's some incredible valuations out there, and so it's creating a lot of froth, a lot of speculation. But having said that, I think that there is a play here, because since stocks do well, relative to the rest of the market. There's an inverse relationship. So as the correction that I'm seeing is starting to build up, there's going to be a market downturn. Cannabis stocks are part of sin stocks. So whether it's alcohol, tobacco, defensive stocks like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, these will go up in a downturn. So when there's a correction or recession, I fully expect these to skyrocket. It's going to be speculative. It might even be parabolic going straight up. But look for a lot of these to have a massive return on investment as pension plans, Illinois, California, all of these pension plans that need to make 15% just to pay off the pensioners. They need to the break even is 7%. That's crazy. They're bankrupt. They don't even know it yet. And so a lot of them are going to be looking at these ETFs and cannabis to help them survive as maybe housing tax revenue decreases or employment decreases or some subsidies go away. These new ETFs are definitely increasing speculation and money flowing through in the billions. So POTX is a fund looking to invest in companies across the cannabis industry, according to this Yahoo Finance article. Quote, this includes companies involved in the legal production, growth, and distribution of cannabis and industrial hemp, as well as ones involved in providing financial services to the industry, pharmaceutical applications of cannabis, cannabidiol or CBD, or other related uses, including but not limited to extracts, derivatives, or synthetic versions. And so adding this to your portfolio, probably a decent idea. You're going to need to look at all of the individual equities that are in there. But I have a feeling that with GE about to go bankrupt, that was the same individual that knew about the Ponzi scheme, multi-billion-dollar Ponzi scheme in 2008. And his forensic accountants have looked at GE and said that this is a zombie company that's going bankrupt. So a lot of these traditional companies that are on the Dow and S&P are not generating revenue. People aren't even looking at it. And in fact, a friend of mine in New York who's in the banking industry isn't even aware that there's cracks in the system. It's frightening that people aren't paying attention. They're kind of just regurgitating what they're seeing and saying, oh yeah, the economy's great. It's not at all. I would look at cannabis stocks as a way to kind of hedge against the inevitable collapse of the entire marketplace globally. Everyone is going to take a hit except for sin stocks.
Heard first here on the Talking Hedge, your cannabis business podcast.
And so what other ETFs are out there? There's the Cambria Cannabis ETF, TOKE, T-O-K-E is the symbol. There's other prominent players in the field. Advisor Shares Pure ETF, YOLO, or Cannabis ETF, THCX, and there's Amplify Seymour Cannabis ETF. There's also a leveraged index. And so if you are risky enough, you can go into this leveraged index. And so if you put $1 in, it's going to go up twice as fast as the regular market. And on the flip side too. So whether it goes down or up, it's 2x. Direction or Direction is a normal ETF, and I think they have 10x, which is crazy. So if the market goes up 1 point, your portfolio goes up 10. So highly speculative, highly risky, and these are just kind of becoming more normalized, which is a little scary. And so this last article from Yahoo Finance asks how to navigate the cannabis ETF Craze. So launching in 4 new cannabis ETFs in 2019 alone, paired with the recent filings for yet another one, this article goes on to say, quote, how many investors are wondering how to navigate amongst the options as they seek exposure to the growing cannabis industry? Quote, the MJ investment objective is quite broad, and an examination of the portfolio indices indicates more than 17% is allocated to tobacco stocks, with other sizable positions including fertilizer companies, breweries, real estate investment trusts, or REITs. And so the other 4 cannabis ETFs can be differentiated first by those that are actively managed and those that are index ETFs like MJ, it's a FMD, Cambria that we just mentioned. And so all of those are passive, right? They're not actively managed. And so for individuals like you and I who want to kind of get in on this, but we don't know which ones, might want to take a look at a whole portfolio or ETF. And we actually have a new segment on the podcast Rohit is a software development engineer. He's the chief investment officer and portfolio manager with Saroj and Banu Fund, and has an AI-based algorithm. This is for entertainment purposes only. Kind of have to say that. But we're going to be doing that tomorrow, every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, uploaded either that day or the next day. So we will be covering all of the cannabis stocks within our own 19 stock portfolio, and we'll be talking about that more tomorrow.
So he's going to predict the future.
He does have like a little crystal ball. It's interesting right now, as the portfolio says to hold last week and this week on a hold pattern, but what we're starting to see is a double cup recovery. And so that what that means is it came up and then it went back down and starting to come back up again. So that's indicating to us that there's probably a bottoming out between now and the end of the year. So somebody looking to get in after that massive spike in the first quarter and an incredible correction and dip following, we're just now starting to maybe see a second wave of opportunity for people to get in. So check back, see what the crystal ball says. But again, it's for entertainment purposes only. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.